So if you know that, okay, oh my god. All right. So if there's a fucking Poke Kaisa, okay. So obviously, yes, there's some problems with like, what beat the artillery mages? What beat what beats the artillery mages? Okay. So let's look at champions that beat the artillery mages. Move these. Sorry. So you have Echo as one of the champions that beats the artillery mages, right? Because of his ability to just get on top of them and be really obnoxious in the way that he can itemize and the way that he can actually compete with wave clear. So Echo is one of the champions that beats the artillery mages. Now, also, you could argue that the artillery mages can also be picked against the artillery mages, right? Kassadin is in a pretty bad spot. Obviously, you're not going to pick Kassadin versus like any of these champions without it being, kind of griefing. Gragas, before he was nerfed, was actually kind of an answer, but not entirely, to the artillery mages. So, I mean, I don't think that you can go like that. I think another unconventional answer to the artillery mages is Singed, and I don't think that we're actually going to see anyone except for maybe one LCS player potentially ever pick Singed versus the artillery mages. So I think like Singed in mid lane is another one. You have like Zed, but I think that like getting Zed in a really good spot is part of the difficulty. Now, there's other champions that are good against the artillery mages that aren't necessarily just found in mid lane, right? You have like Camille and stuff is definitely really good against them. Fizz is a champion that's really good against the artillery mages as well. Very, lesser known champion, etc. At least in terms of competitive play, you don't expect to see Fizz all that often just appear. So yeah, I mean, Fizz is another one. Now, Vex is unfortunately one of the worst champions in the game. However, if Vex was good, then Vex would be an answer to the artillery mages as well. Another champion that could be an answer to the artillery mages, assuming that, he isn't just in mid lane, he could be in other areas, would be like Zac, would be an answer to the artillery mages. Veigar can be an answer to artillery mages, but again, not himself. Like there has to be something else going on because typically Veigar is going to lose to the artillery mages in mid lane. So Veigar is not going to be the type of thing that you're looking for. Now, typically the artillery mages are beaten by theme, not explicitly just inside of the lane. Okay, there's a handful of champions that actually do just pummel them in the actual laning phase part of the game. So this just has to also be understood, right? Katarina is another champion that actually beats the artillery mages in a lot of cases. So like this is what people have to understand. Now, we never got to this part of the fucking the pentagon or whatever the fuck you want to call it. Where are shapes? Is it even a pentagon? I don't even actually know if it's a pentagon. Wait, is it a pentagon? Let me think.
What do you mean
I don't know if it is. Wait.
Yeah, that's a pentagon.
Yes, no. That's not what I mean. Control mages beat whatchamacallit? Mid-range. Control mages beat mid-range. Yeah. Mid no. Enters can it's not even exactly a pentagon. I would have to do this like more fleshed out, right? Oh, it's not a pentagon actually. Okay. I mean, unless you group enchanters and tanks together, then you could actually make this a pentagon. Wait, let me just do that actually. Because I guess they're almost kind of in the same category because sometimes tanks and enchanters, it depends on which ones are facing each other. So they no, it's not. It's actually 6. Pentagon doesn't work. The more that I'm thinking about it, Pentagon doesn't work. I have to think about this more.
And hexagon.
Yeah, hexagon. But we never reached this stage. Control mages. Ooh, shit. Control mages are at the top. All right, let me just fucking position this. I'm so bad. Okay. So control mages lose to assassin. Oh my god. Oh my god. Evasion. And they lose to tanks. And then they lose to enchanters. Utility. Mid range. What now? What am I forgetting? Wait, I'm forgetting something. What am I forgetting? I just forgot something.
Maybe we could chat.
No. Ah, I'm doing it wrong.
Bro, we have to do Rengar Iron. You know, good content that'd be.
Yeah, we can do that. That's fine.
Or Nocturne Fiddle. I think one of those things we need to cut.
Nocturne Fiddle's fine. Apparently, Fiddle's actually good in the game mode.
What else is there? Is there
What do you
anything
mean?
else?
Huh?
Is there anything else like combo?
I can think about it.
I think those are the two that.
Wait, how the fuck do you spell artillery? I actually don't know. Artiller. Oh, I spelled it right. Oh, I spelled it right. Oh, okay. What the fuck? That doesn't look right when I look at it. I mean, so it's not always going to be 1-to-1 in a situation like this, right? It's not always going to be this way. Generally, Enchanters is going to be really good against a lot of these different things. I mean, everything here is going to be somewhat good against each other, but I think that the hardest counter typically to each other is next to each other. In like this, it's not really a pie chart, right? This is like a hexagon or something. Like typically, artillery beats the shit out of control mages, and then assassins and evasion beats the shit out of artillery. Or you could do this. You could draw the arrows differently, right? You could do it like this. And then obviously assassins and evasion loses really hard to tanks. Tanks typically lose really hard to enchanter utility. And then enchanter utility typically loses to like some mid-rangey champions. Now, mid-rangey champions are like kind of specific because it's going to be case by case. The reality is that enchanters actually just have the least weakness typically because their gameplay is defined by like other aspects. And then mid-range obviously loses to control mages. Now, what ends up happening typically in pro play is we don't get this. We don't get these. We don't get artillery, and we don't get assassin evasion. These two almost don't exist in pro play. They're almost outliers. So what ends up happening is we get this. We just get this side of everything that happens. And when you just get this, the rotation ends up just devolving into control mage versus control mage, and then eventually maybe utility mage, and then eventually tanks end up popping up, or like mid-range champions do attempt to get picked, mid-range being like Akali, Aurelia, these types of things. So I wouldn't necessarily just classify as assassin evasion. I think that they're more mid-rangey and stuff. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of like a weird cycle. Now, obviously, in trading card games, stuff like this is pretty commonly understood. But in League of Legends, you just have, in League of Legends, you just have it so that no one does stuff like this. So it's kind of badge. Now, obviously, there's some champions as well that like violate some of these principles, because their stats are just inherently too strong. So it's really difficult to do anything against. But typically, this is like the cycle of events that ends up happening. You get a little bit more specific, and you could like color it in and do all this other great jazz and stuff. But yeah, no one does artillery, no one does assassin evasion, so we never get that spectrum. So when Kai'Sa and Tristana are just appearing, like Tristana B1 should just be punished by Akshan as a response, but no one's playing Akshan. So I don't know why no one is playing Akshan, because he can follow her everywhere except for AD carry. So maybe you go like R3 Akshan or something, just to guarantee that there's nothing that she can actually do, because you would have enough information of the draft or something. But this would definitely be a lot better. This way, you still get access to an AD champion. Everyone and their mother right now is just doing Jace into Tristana, but that's not actually good enough. And then in terms of the Tristana versus Kai'Sa matchup, Kai'Sa actually wins out because one, she has more modes than Tristana, and one of the modes that she has access to is the poke variant of Kai'Sa. And the poke variant of Kai'Sa is one of the things that Tristana struggles to play against depending on the surrounding draft. If Kai'Sa has enough peel and enough frontline, then it doesn't matter that Tristana is able to play with hard engage and follow-up champions. She can't actually penetrate Kai'Sa defenses depending on surrounding drafts, so Kai'Sa will win out. The other thing is that, again, Kai'Sa being so malleable inside of the draft can develop into other types of drafts, some of which are also still going to be good against Tristana. So in terms of trades, in terms of like power level, I would say that Kai'Sa is vastly superior to Tristana. except for if you can't like play Akshan. Because if you can't play Akshan, then I think that opening with Tristana inside of draft is probably going to be better at pro play level, or just like high level, etc. Because then you don't get as easy of an access to like countering Tristana inside of the lane. You're going to depend on things like Asol. You're going to depend on Isol. You're going to depend on Kai'Sa trade in mid lane, or you're going to have to just do other like weird types of champions like Orianna or like Cassiopeia. Which aren't necessarily going to be the greatest picks when the draft ends up continuing to develop. Now, the good thing about like Tristana as a ranged marksman champion is she's not as prone to some of the like hard engage type things as other champions because she has her W and she has her R. Yeah, are we in draft? Okay, let's just go back full screen because I really have to run to the bathroom.